Okay, this might be the last video I ever do on Snow White. Maybe. I mean, you never know, maybe a year from now or something like that. A story comes out with some definitive budget numbers for this movie. Maybe there are some more things that come out about what happened behind the scenes with Rachel Zegler, I don't know. But for right now, I'm on boxofficemojo.com here. It looks like Snow White's theatrical run is over. It's been out for about a month and a half. I checked this about a week ago and it was at $200 million worldwide, and it is still at $200 million, so yeah, it looks like this movie's about done. I mean, I thought this movie was going to flop. Let's be real, we all thought this movie was going to flop. Or rather, we all knew it was going to flop, but I wasn't sure exactly how bad it was going to be. I'll go to a couple other Disney movies here. Here we have Little Mermaid 2023, came out almost exactly 2 years ago, May 4, 2023, first release in Italy, I guess. I believe this was the last live-action remake that Disney did before Snow White. And the final box office haul for The Little Mermaid was $570 million. This movie had a little bit of controversy around it because you could say they race swapped The Little Mermaid in this remake, which Hollywood's doing a lot of race swapping, so yeah, that upset some fans. You look at the final number for The Little Mermaid, I mean, I wouldn't call it a complete and utter flop, but this movie had a pretty big budget, so yeah, this movie didn't perform all that well. I mean, compare that to Beauty and the Beast, and that did come out in 2017, but that movie, $1.3 billion. Little Mermaid makes less than half that. Now for Snow White, going back, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, at the time my guess was Snow White might make, I don't know, $500 million in theaters. The reason why I was guessing that at the time was based off of what The Little Mermaid made. I was thinking, okay, Little Mermaid brought in $570 million. Snow White's got a little more controversy around it than Little Mermaid. I'm going to say $500 million for Snow White. At the time, again, year and a half ago, this is what I was originally thinking. But then as time goes on, you kind of read the temperature in the room, and then I start thinking, I think Snow White's going to do worse than that. I don't think it's going to make $500 million. Now, Snow White, it released in 2025, a month and a half ago. It was supposed to release a year ago in March of last year, but Disney delayed the movie by a year. At the time they announced the delay because of the actor strikes, or that was the reason they gave, but this also came right after some interviews from Rachel Zegler resurfaced, where you probably have already seen the clips of her calling the prince a stalker in the original Snow White. She's saying Snow White is going to be a strong woman girl boss and stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of fans got upset. They didn't like the direction this new Snow White movie was going to be taking. They did not like the attitude of the star of Snow White. And I noticed Disney happens to delay the movie by a full year right as all this controversy is brewing. And I'm thinking, behind closed doors, they have to be thinking maybe a year delay might cool the temperature down. Maybe it gets some people to soften their stance on Rachel Zegler. Maybe it gets some people to forget some of the things that she had said. And then time goes on, and eventually they start releasing some trailers for Snow White, and I look at comments and stuff like that, and I'm like, nope, nobody's forgotten anything. Everybody is still angry with what they're doing. They still don't like Rachel Zegler. So at that point, I'm like, yeah, this movie's going to be a flop. It's a guaranteed flop. I mean, everyone else out there, too, saying this movie's going to perform badly. And then we get to now, and it's at $200 million. I think this is the final number. Maybe it's still out in a theater or two out there somewhere, but it looks like Snow White's run is over. Yeah, for a Disney movie, this is a monumental flop. For context, The Marvels from November of 2023, that might have been Disney's worst flop ever. $206 million. I mean, this number, $206 million, there are movies out there that have made less than that in theaters, but you consider this is a Disney movie, Marvel's part of Disney. You consider all the marketing resources Disney has, and you consider how big a budget the movie had. Yeah, this movie's a huge flop. Maybe Disney's biggest flop ever, at least at the time, but as Snow White was being released in theaters, and I see the first weekend, second weekend, I'm thinking, could this movie do worse than the Marvels? Could it make less money than the Marvels? And well, Marvels $206 million, Snow White here, $200 million. It looks like Snow White edged out the Marvels as the worst Disney flop ever. And how much money did this movie lose Disney? Well, there are people out there saying, $200 or $300 million, something like that. Someday we might get some exact numbers when it comes to what this movie's budget was, but for now we know this movie's probably Disney's biggest flop ever. So far this year, Disney's had Captain America Brave New World, which made $450 million. That's a flop. Not as bad as Snow White, but this is a flop. And then they had Marvel's Thunderbolts. I guess that came out last weekend. Right now they've got at $162 million, so we'll see where the hell that goes. But regardless, folks, Disney's off to a bad start this year. And Snow White, I thought it was going to be a flop. We all did, and I think this movie exceeded my expectations. Leading up to the movie's release, I mean, I thought it would do bad, but I wasn't sure it'd be this bad. I wasn't sure it'd edge out the Marvels, but here we are. Now, will Disney learn anything from this? I don't know. One question I've wondered is, will they ever work with Rachel Zegler ever again after this whole debacle? Because let's face it, Rachel Zegler is the single biggest reason this movie flopped. I mean, yes, they did modernize Snow White, they updated it for modern audiences and all that, from what people are saying, but make no mistake, ultimately Rachel Zegler tanked this movie. From what I've seen recently, I guess she landed one role. I guess she's going to be playing in some comedy called She Gets It From Me. But I do wonder, do you think Rachel Zegler's ever going to star in another blockbuster movie ever again? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't work with her again after this, but that's just me. Alright, that's about all I got here. Looks like Snow White's theatrical run is done. It made only $200 million. It made less money than the Marvels. This movie's probably Disney's biggest flop ever. I've made a number of videos on Snow White and all the controversy, the whole firestorm around it, and now the movie's done, so I don't know if I'll ever make another Snow White video ever again. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe another story comes out about some things that happen behind the scenes, or maybe at some point we learn exactly how much this movie cost after all the reshoots and stuff. You never know. Alright, I don't think I have anything else. Bye everyone.